Supporting all 32 counties, Alliance.
Hello and welcome along to the first edition of Alliance Leagues Reloaded 2019. Over the course of the next couple of months, we will tell you all you need to know about the Alliance Football and Hurling Leagues, as well as having a little bit of fun along the way. We're going to do so in the company of four-time All-Ireland winner Kieran Donaghy, and alongside him is a man who got to bow out at the very top at Limerick, the great Seamus Hickey, and Eamon Donoghue of the Irish Times. We would like you to get involved as well in the show, and you can do so by following us on the usual social channels on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube at Air Sport. Now, here's a little taste of what's to come on the show tonight. Yes, we have an exciting show in store for you tonight. You're all very welcome. Kieran, you're delighted to be here. You're smiling back at me. It's the start of the National League. How does it feel after so long being kind of on the outside now looking in? Obviously, it's for both of you guys, you know, because there's the anticipation of the league and now it's here. But now I suppose you're on the outside looking in. It's very different to what you're used to. Yeah,
I think so, yeah. It is tough, of course, you know, that excitement before the first game. I've been a bit lucky the last few years. I was able to play basketball and kind of miss the league and come in near the end of it. So I've been kind of used to the league, so hasn't hit me as much yet as I'm sure Championship will. But certainly, as you say, not having any contact with the boys, I would have been in the gym with them all the time, so you'd be getting a feel for how things are going. Yeah. But definitely no, yeah, you're very much on the outside looking in, and we're happy enough with the result of the weekend.
Seamus, you're nodding away there. Are you feeling?
It's the lads you miss most of everything. Just the usual. So someone would ask you how so and so going in training. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I normally do know, and I'm normally trying not to tell everybody what's going on. But so yeah, no, it's strange. I only felt it when I was freezing cold on the sideline watching Tip and Clare play and going, I should be playing a season.
I know.
But yeah, no, it's strange. But at the same time, I felt I was ready to go, but we'll test that.
Well, we're delighted to have you in that chair. We can get all your expert analysis now.
You may regret that.
Their loss, but our gain.
Yeah.
And how is it, lads, in terms of when you're sending text messages to the lads and asking how things are going? How's the injury? Are they kind of keeping their distance a little bit, or are they still?
I've half avoided the lads. Honestly, yes, because even so, like the team holiday was just so fresh for Limerick, I suppose, especially we don't go on too many. So the lads, we were away, and I could essentially give them a bit of space. I don't really want to be in the rear, and obviously, you know, your own life goes on at pace when you've got as many things to do. So it's. You don't want
to be that guy either.
Bit of a natural separation.
Yeah, we've had so long of kind of people asking you, how's everything going?
Yeah,
and you're kind of like, you're trying not to give it away, so you don't want to be the guy looking in, kind of going, how's everything going? How are we getting on inside? Like
who's playing well in training?
Yeah, you really have to just step back.
And at this time of year as well, when it's, you know, there's new panels, there's new squads, new players' faces, they can nearly be a little bit sceptical about going outside the camp, talking even about how things are going at training. Yeah. Like, would you find that they're?
It's a strange. Listen, it's a strange dynamic. I suppose probably I work across buildings from Declan Hannon and Cian Lynch, so I see them a bit anyway. Like it's just a natural way of things, but. And you'd be in touch with the people you're normally in touch with, but you wouldn't be talking about hurling.
Yeah.
You'd be talking about anything.
Will you be looking now to Kerry and Limerick with a very close eye this year, or are you just kind of looking forward to enjoying the games in general now that you're not in the thick of it?
I think you can enjoy. I think we can enjoy it with the actual kind of pressure off. You know yourself, like when you're, as long as we were with just that pressure of performing for your county and performing for your team. I think get back to being a fan now and kind of enjoying it again. It will definitely be exciting for me, because the pressure as the years went on, as the older you get and you know there's not too much time left, the pressure is getting massive every game. So like my last few games, it was just like, you know, it just felt this huge pressure to play, and you're kind of like, it should be the other way around. It should be a bit fun now, but certainly looking back to getting back into being a fan.
It's a nice feeling. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'll hold you to that now, come championship.
It's good. I'm going to be taking my kids to the games. Yeah. It's going to be a nice feeling to be a proper fan again.
I know, that's true. Well, actually, now, speaking of pressure, I suppose, and performance, you know, I suppose the whole idea of the new rules was to aid the performance and to better the game now, particularly in the likes of the football. Like, what do you make of the rules? Like, I mean, there was so many of them. There was so much talk about it. Your teams are settling into it now. Like, Ciara, what are your initial thoughts on them?
Yeah, well, I suppose, look, the big one was the hand pass one that got, put out in the end. The mark, looking at the Dublin and Monaghan game, brought huge excitement to that. The hand pass was always going to be a tricky one, I felt, especially I was always looking at it as an inside forward who would have came out and won a lot of ball off a hand pass to give another hand pass. If I'd have been counting the hand passes and get it and a Darren O'Sullivan going through off goal and I can't slip it to him, you know, I always felt that was maybe that's what got that one put out to the end, because you couldn't have that really. You couldn't have a forward winning it with a guy going off for a goal chance and not being able to give the pass. But
like, speaking of the hand pass, Eamon, like, I mean, Jim Gavin did come out and, you know, almost like on his soapbox, and it's quite unusual for Jim, and he said that he felt that, you know, people shouldn't have been, all the managers shouldn't have been going on about the rules. And, you know, do you think that was one of the reasons why the hand pass was dropped, that rule in particular, because people gave out about it?
For sure, the pressure that was coming in from a lot of the players and the managers was intense. You know, there's very few people coming out talking positively about it. But that was the thing, is the fear factor. Players don't want to be playing counting. They don't want to be playing worrying about, you know, that takes away the expression from the game. And I think with the hand pass rule, you know, Rob Carroll did a lot of research into it. It wasn't just thrown out there, but when you put out 3 hand passes, you know, people are just terrified. If you put out 5 or 6, had a chance of getting through. But once 3 came in, it was just like, how can you have a function in hand passing movement with only 3 hand passing? So they're essentially trying to get rid of the hand pass out of the game. Yeah. Then people start to say, are we going to go back to football from, you know, the 80s and whatever years?
But some teams didn't even have the opportunity to trial that rule. You know, I mean, do you think that they pulled it out too quickly, that they didn't even allow it to even manifest in the league? They didn't review it after the league and say, you know, it didn't work or it did work?
I suppose you have to kind of remember that there was 5 rule changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Standing Committee on Playing Rules, they had the task to actually go in and try and improve the game as a spectacle through focusing on the core skills of the game in football, which is catch and kick. They're trying to promote those. So when you actually look at the 5 rules that they brought together, and I suppose they presented together, you're talking about, yes, we've got an awful lot of change here, but what is actually affecting the change on the field? Yeah. So you're actually trying a lot of things together. So you're trying to actually cope with the mark and the difference in, let's say, receiving a ball from a kick inside the 45 and actually having a chance to kick a score. Yeah. And you're trying to balance that then with 3 hand passes in a row where you have to stop and kick a ball. And if that's a 5-foot kick pass, you know, you have to reset the chain. Yeah. So you could look at it, and you know, maybe there is a better way or a better, I suppose, even platform to trial it. But the National League, with so much at stake, it's a very, very difficult platform to actually trial these rules when you've got promotion, relegation, and you've got sometimes seasons actually come down to it.
Yeah, there's big consequences on it. Like, you know, I think, you know, even when the committee come up with the rules, I think there should be a forum of maybe going to players and managers through the GPA and even asking them, you know, what do we think of these guys? And they might have got a big kickback from it there, where they might have been able to actually hold it back. Or, you know, I think the players and the managers shouldn't be the last to know about these rules. And I think it's, you know, going forward, it should be looked at more about, because they're the guys that are going to be out trying to manage a team to win or stay up or whatever, and the players are going to be out there trying to execute these things. So
one thing I would say though, and especially as the rules committee was, you know, the research was very thorough.
Yeah, and obviously
it was very data driven. It was very data driven.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something that it was a knee jerk, let's throw it out and see what happens. So it is a concerted effort to improve football as a spectacle and improve the skills of football. And I don't think any of us could actually, you know, in any way disagree with I suppose the motivation of it. But in the practicalities then about bringing that much change at one time,
exactly.
That's probably,
and it's panic, I suppose.
That's probably the crux of it. And then, you know, maybe the biggest change of all in the hand pass was probably too much to handle.
Well, I suppose let's focus on one of the rules in particular. I mean, you were particularly impressed with Monaghan's effective use of the mark. I mean, much more so than Dublin. They blew them away. Yeah. What impressed you?
Well, I think it was pretty noticeable, the fact that Dublin, these players have just come not off the plane, but they've only been back for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And they've had very little practice in terms of the mark. But as you can see here, this is in the first half. Monaghan especially kicked on with the marks in the second half when Conor McManus came on. But they had 5 scores out of 6 offensive marks. Yeah. Dublin only had 2. The way they used it, for me though, it really showed when people thought this rule was coming in, they assumed that the scoring area, there was going to be a lot of aerial ball coming in, there was going to be a lot of high fielding. But Monaghan showed a very different side to it. A lot of ball that traditionally would have been kicked outside the man, one hop. Now you're basically looking for more of a risky pass in terms of you're trying to hit the target bang on. But the way it's been used here is very different. Looking at Dublin, for instance, Dublin had a chance. It's 17 chances in the game of kick passes to basically to have an offensive mark, and they still went with the one hop, the two hops coming in, because it's a riskier kick. And when you're trying to hit a man smack on, it's harder for him to control it, and it's harder for you to hit that target. And if you didn't have the mark, then you're hitting the man. His momentum is gone, so he's kind of stuck with the ball. So it's changing the dynamics of the game more so than we thought it would. I don't know what you think, lads. And is this what you were expecting when you first heard about this rule?
Well, for me, watching having played international rules in a few series, you know, and I played alongside Benny Coulter, Stevie McDonald, Sean Kavanagh. They were brilliant at this mark, running out 30 yards, catching the chest, and they're so good kickers. Then it was like having a good free taker kicking a free that you're going to expect him to score. So I think some people had this notion that it was going to be lamped into the edge of the square for the big men,
into big men like yourself.
Into big men to fight for it. But I think there's a wide variety of how this can be used, and I think Monaghan were excellent at that.
But you could see that Monaghan had put in the time and the effort. But I mean, I suppose, Seamus, you did, as I referred to before we went on air, some counties might be like, well, this isn't going to be implemented for 18 months. So are they putting as much time into using the rules?
It's a very good point. So, Dublin to have that many kicks inside the 45 and just bounce, it shows that it's not an area of focus for them, because the 2019 championship isn't going to be in play. Whether the actual rule is adopted and whether it's actually kept will be down to Congress, and that'll actually be a whole different story and a whole different conversation. But you know, in the league there's benefits to be reaped from coaching the rule. But you know, Jim Gavin is a very bright guy. I hear. So I don't think
when it's not relevant for the championship.
So he's prioritising.
Yeah, you can see they're probably just training, and they're probably just saying, look, it's all about championship for us right now. So we're not going to waste 3 months working on this kick. But at saying that, as you said earlier on, that kick you have to work more on your accuracy, you have to practice it more. But a kick into a forward is always better if it hits him into the chest than a bounce or two bounces, because you don't know what way it's going to bounce in the summer. So, you know, it would be a good thing to be working on anyway, you know, working on your accuracy from the kicks.
Well, we could talk about this all day. But we have to move on. Just a little bit of hurling now for the moment. It all got underway on Saturday night at Semple Stadium as Liam Sheedy returned to the fold as Tipperary manager, and the Premier County got off to the perfect start against Clare.
Here at Semple Stadium this evening, the crowd are flocking in ahead of this opening round of the Alliance National Hurling League, and we're looking forward to what should be a cracking game.
This is really turning into a big rivalry. So are we seeing a kind of a changing of the guard?
Hogan it is that's taking this free, dropping it in around the edge of the square. Well won inside. Here's an opportunity, surely a penalty. It is. Seamus Callanan causing absolute consternation inside there. The Tipperary captain, the Drummond Inchman, with the opportunity. Here he comes, picks it, strikes it. Brilliant save by Donald Toohey. The line ball is sent in and over the crossbar. That's a super skill, it has to be said.
Noel McGrath, how many times have we seen him doing that?
Inside it goes now, again towards Guilfoyle. Controls it and sends it in. The referee, though, was given a penalty. He was playing the advantage, I think. Clare could do with this one. Here it comes. Niall Deasy, step back, picks it, strikes it, and into the net. First goal of the National Hurling League goes the way of Clare. Now Tipperary have it, shoulder into the chest, as it says the referee, and he's going to award a free. And the colour of the card, I'm sure from Colm Lyons, is probably just going to be yellow. He's having a chat. Oh, it's a straight red card.
No send off in my book, and listen, one of the best hurlers in the game, gone.
Morris under a bit of pressure, lays the hand pass off. Chance across the centre for Callanan! Brilliant goal!
Lovely pass, look at the precision in that. Callanan catches the ball and buries it.
Morris back again towards Callanan, he's through again! Oh, 2 goals in the space of a minute for Seamie Callanan. They're absolutely choking Clare.
Oh, look at this for a flick. That comes from years and years hitting the ball off the wall in Drummond Inch.
The referee has decided the final whistle is blown. It's victory for Tipperary, 2 goals in 16 to 111.
It's hard to believe that is actually only the first round of the league. I mean, like you just feel the tension, the temperature. Speaking of tension, though, We saw 3 red cards over the weekend, Seamus.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I suppose, I mean, there was a directive that came in. We know that they wanted to really stamp out, for example, the high tackles, the high contact. What was your take on the red cards?
So, like, I suppose the thing here is that there wasn't any rule changes in hurling here, but there was a point of emphasis or a focus put on anything to do with contact at the head. Here you have Tony Kelly coming in very quick, and he's trying to make a tackle at a high speed against a big man. Now, you can actually see him here. Look, it's a frontal charge. He leads with his hands more so than his actual forearm. He's trying to slow down Paddy's momentum and so they're coached to put the hand in the chest to stop momentum. That's what Clare have been coached to do. That's what Paul Kinner coached us to do in Limerick. Break the momentum with your forearm or your palm. And work away. The referees, after interpreting as the hand rose up and hit him in the face. Here in Wexford, you know, Liam Ryan just nudged Cian Lynch into the I suppose, sponsorship boards. Seamus Flanagan then, like most players will do, is going to jump in and say, listen, you can't do that to my teammate.
But there's a melee then that happens.
See, Seamus actually then paid for the fact that it turned into something bigger. And when it turns into a melee of more than 4 or 5 players, the third man in has to go.
But is it difficult then for referees, because these are the rules they're being given, and you know they're going by them to the letter of the law. But if, like you said, in terms of the game, are they red cards? Like, did you think they were red cards?
Listen, the Tony one, I think I was going to be given out if he got a yellow. I thought it was. I genuinely was. And like Tommy, you could see Tommy on the broadcast.
The co-com. Yes, he was.
He was aghast at it. Like, he went in at a high speed for a tackle. Yeah. I thought he actually led with. He didn't lead with his shoulder, because you can't lead with his shoulder into the chest. I thought he led with his hands. So it was difficult. Hands rode up, and I understand the motivation of protecting the player in their heads. But to me, it wasn't.
What did you think?
Yeah, well, for this one, I kind of compare it to rugby in terms of when you've got these rules for health and safety, essentially, is what they're for. So in rugby, if someone's tackled in the air, it can be accidental, it can be complete coming together, it can't be the player's fault, but he's still going to be punished for it. So this rule has been brought into hurling for health and safety for the players. So for me, if the referees are saying it's a red card when you tackle the head, then that's a stonewall red card. But I do understand that from that doesn't make it fair. In rugby they have the TMO, so they can go in and they can say, was this deliberate, was this accidental, and they can kind of gauge on then, is it a sin bin and is it a red card, is it just a penalty, where the referee has to make the decision on the spot.
And even in this instance there, you've got, so like the referee what he had to react was Paddy Maher hitting the ground, the doctor coming in and actually treating for a neck injury, and straight away, like he actually has very limited options in that case. He's treating for a head injury. There's been contact at the head. I actually have to send him off. But you know, if you did actually have a look back at this, I think you would actually see he went for the chest, hands came up. These are the grey areas you're dealing with. It's tough to be a referee.
If it's a Munster final or an All-Ireland final.
Well, that's it. Would those red cards have been given in Championship?
I don't think they ever would. Yeah. So I think we should be, whatever the rules are for the year, should be trying to implement them every game as a big game to that player. That's a huge game for Tony Kelly, a great hurler.
Exactly.
And next thing he's kind of there looking at him, kind of going, no way, you're not going to send me off.
And it's a raid. The game is a spectacle, which at least is a good, But I know.
I thought it killed Clare.
It did, but at the same time, though, there was a lot of other talking points, and we don't want to be focusing too much on the
referees are under pressure, and they've got these referees panels as well. So, listen, this is multifaceted. If you asked me if it was a red card, I didn't think it was.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with you on that. OK, time for a quick break. When we come back, we will preview round 2 of the Alliance Football Leagues. See you in a few.
My earliest GAA memory is playing the under-9 parish leagues back home in Cloughjordan when I was 6 or 7.
My earliest GAA memory would probably be going up to my local club on a Sunday morning for training, So you used to go up under 6s there and hurl away on a Sunday morning. I remember playing on a B team when I was about 5, I'd say, because Dad was the manager and we'd run out of players. So I'd say the jersey was probably down to my boots.
Probably 97 All-Ireland. I was probably 6. It was massive getting ready for it in school. Mark Spitz kicked about 10 points, and that's definitely the first one, really.
My earliest GAA memory was going down to Tullaroan senior training when I was 5 or 6. Danny Norton used to make the tea, and Declan Connolly was the manager at the time, used to bring out the cakes and the biscuits. And we were young lads at the time, and that was the highlight of our week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, going down to them trainings.
Just while I wasn't doing anything there when you caught me on camera earlier on. Plenty of interesting and brilliant memories there. Doesn't it always feel like Tommy's about to say something that's just going to make you laugh out loud funny? Kieran, speaking of early memories, what was yours?
I think Mikey Sheehy was handing out the under-8s medals, I'd say, as he was Nassen's taxman, obviously one of the all-time greats, and going down and winning and getting a medal off of Mikey below in Connolly Park for my club, Austin Stacks, was my earliest memory.
Oh my God, brilliant. It's just kind of one of those things that obviously lives with you forever. I'm sure there's a lot of younger guys there saying the exact same thing about you. That's probably their early memory. Well, time now to remind you of how the first round went for the Division 1 of the Alliance Football League. Mayo just got over the line against Roscommon in extreme conditions in McHale Park. James Horan's first league game back, of course. Monaghan, arguably the best win of the weekend, beating Dublin in Clonus. Galway got their league campaign off to a good start, defeating Cavan. And Kerry got off to the perfect start under Peter Keane with a 4-point win over Tyrone. And here is what round 2 looks like this weekend. Dublin host Galway in Croke Park, looking for their first win of the league on Saturday night. Then we have 3 games with throw-ins on Sunday. Kerry travel to Cavan, looking to make it back-to-back victories. Roscommon and Monaghan face off in Dr. Hyde Park. And Mayo are en route to Tyrone to wrap up, really, the weekend action. So don't forget that Dublin against Galway in a repeat of last year's league final is live on Airsport 1 from 6:30 on Saturday. Well, this is where now you come into your own. We're talking about all things football. I can see this is the part. Like, there was so many games last weekend, but I suppose let's just look ahead now to the ones this weekend, because we've got some brilliant games in store. From your point of view, right, for the Dublin and Galway game, let's go with that one first. I mean, Dublin don't lose that often. They certainly don't lose back-to-back that often. Do you think now there's going to be a little bit more bite in Dublin's attack this time around?
Yeah, I think so. I think they'll be relishing welcoming Galway to Croke Park. You know, it's this Dublin team are going for 5 in a row for no reason. They're a serious outfit. You know, they'll be hurting a small bit after the result of the weekend, especially. Which would be unlike them to be in a comfortable position at the stage and have it slip away from them and not be able to claw back. And I think they'll be really looking to come out and kind of just let everybody know that they're not. Don't write them off just yet, because I heard some stuff during the week about that they're weak here and there's areas here that they can be targeted and all. Like, this Dublin team is a serious outfit, and I think they'll be able to prove that on Saturday night.
They were just off the plane, in fairness, in their team holiday as well. Speaking about Galway for a second, what do you think, Eamon, is the difference between, or do you notice any difference between the 2018 and the 2019 Galway that we see?
Yeah, well, Galway last year, and since Kevin Walsh has taken over, they've set up a really strong defensive system. And then up top, they've got great individuals in terms of Damien Comer, Shane Walsh.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that link between the big fad word transition, they're really lacking a transition, and their counter-attack, you know, it's not really clicking all of the time. This year, Killian McDade is back from Australia, and they're playing him wing forward. For me, he's one to watch. But at the same time, now they've got a case where they've got 2 wing forwards who are both 2 wing backs, Johnny Heaney, Killian McDade, and the last Peter Cook playing in the centre forward position. He's a midfielder. I don't know what you think, Kieran, in terms of that link. How did Galway go from being a really strong defensive team to having the whole package?
Yeah, I think they'll try and kind of, you know, take what the base that they put into the team last year, which is what they were really hard to break down. You know, we came across it in the league game in Tralee, and they were just, you know, it was very hard. We didn't get any goal chances. And obviously they beat us in Croke Park in the Super 8s. And again, we were, you know, very short of ideas on how to cope with them. So they're getting their bodies back. But as you say, it's that transition. And, you know, they're starting with a midfielder and 2 half-backs in their half-forward line the last day. They will be solid. And, you know, I think it's probably a guy like Shane Walsh who has all that potential that's going to have to become that guy that comes out and starts winning dirty ball out around the half forward. Like, they're good at getting their few hand passes into the back, and then they want to move it. But sometimes that outlet isn't there. Somebody making that hard run isn't there. And I think Shane has to become that guy. He has to become the real hard, tough ball winner. And there's no real highlights in it. You come out, you win the ball, you give it off to some fella coming off your shoulder, and then they're kicking it into Damien Comer inside. And I think that's where they're breaking down slightly.
Yeah, but speaking of kicking it into Damien Comer inside, what I found in Championship was when Galway kicked the long high ball in, you know, in over the defence of Dublin, like, they got the goal, they caused problems. Do you see that as a style of play that Galway might be able to adapt, like, for this game?
certainly in Damien Comer, they've got a guy, which is a great luxury for players out the field to have, that can win the ball out in front and is very strong winning in his chest, but can also compete over his head. And you know, you may even see it more on Saturday night with the mark. You know, they might try it a bit more because if he wins it in there now, he can land and pop it over the bar, or if he lands with momentum, he can turn and take on his man and get a goal. So, you know, but looking towards the championship as well as the game Saturday night, they will be looking to definitely get him more quality ball. I thought at stages last year, you know, they resorted, I think they may have been tired coming to the end of the games with all the running back that they were doing, and I think a lot of it was what we do, we'll kick it in and hopefully he wins it. Exactly, So I think they really have to look at the quality, because he's such a good ball winner. He's good at taking, he's going to ask you serious questions every time he gets it. Like when he turns and puts his head down, you know, he's like a bull in a china shop. You better get out of the way.
I wouldn't mind having him, to be fair. Well, I suppose, like, I mean, speaking, you spoke about Monaghan, their effective use of the mark. Do you think Galway are going to do the same? And more importantly, do you think Dublin are going to be ready for it this time round?
Yeah, I think that Monaghan are set up for the offensive mark. You know, they leave two inside, generally speaking, anyway, especially when Conor McManus comes in there. He loves to be the man on his own. He's always thinking about where he can get the ball for his score. He plays for a free a lot of the time, so now he's playing for a mark, so it's pretty much a similar thing. Galway, even though the traditional footballing team, one of the reasons why a lot of the Galway public aren't behind this team as much as they could be is because they don't actually kick the ball that often. And not even that they don't kick the ball that often, they don't even have that actually, you know, that's too many great kick passers. So yeah, I can't see Galway exploiting it in the same way. One of the things that will be very interesting for me will be if Evan Comerford starts again in goal. Looking at it, it's very harsh to be comparing anyone to Stephen Cluxton, but if you're wearing the number 1 jersey after he wears it, you have to be. Dublin the last day had 76% of their kickouts they won. Stephen Cluxton, the All-Ireland final last year, 94%. Last year, his average was just under 90%. You know, it's quite a considerable drop, and a lot of the kickouts they lost the last day were straight after an important score or an important moment. Is that safety net gone? How important is that, especially even as an opposition? If you're playing against Dublin and you don't see Stephen Cluxton in there, you know, does that give you a boost?
Oh, it has to give you a boost, yeah. He's like, you know, we're Super Bowl week, we're getting ready to watch Tom Brady this Sunday as well. And that's what Stephen Cluxton is for Dublin. He's the guy that slows it at the right time, he speeds it up at the right time, he's the calming influence. Very hard to rattle. A lot of teams have tried, but it's really hard to do it on a sustained period or to break him. You know, he's not a guy that breaks. He's their leader that way. And I think when he has the ball down, you know, he just does the right thing at the right time, and he's got unbelievable patience. I've been inside there in front of him, shimmying over and back, roaring to the referee.
You heard it here first.
Roaring to the referee. How long is this guy going to take? He's standing there. He's waiting for someone to fall asleep out the pitch. Somebody eventually does, after 30 or 40 seconds, hint to the referees to speed it up. 30 or 40 seconds to wait, and then he hits this arrow, you know, 40 or 50 yards. And not only is a Dublin player winning it, he's winning it on the turn. And I almost think they've it nearly a step ahead to where the inside guys see the movement happening, see where he's going to win it half turned. And I'd say, like, I've watched some of their games from behind the goals. They've their movement started before the guy even wins it. So, you know, he is certainly a huge player for them. And yeah, it's tough on Evan to be compared to him, but look, that's the nature of the beast, I'm afraid.
I suppose, I mean, like, it's definitely going to be a mouth-watering clash for sure. But let's move on out to some of the other fixtures. I mean, Kerry Cavan. Kerry seem to be playing with a changed style, you know, more cautious nearly. I mean, how are Kerry fans adopting to that less traditional style that what we've known to see from Kerry? Well,
Kerry fans will have to get over it, because we won last week against the All-Ireland runners-up. We won by 4 points fairly comfortably. So, you know, everything that Peter Keane would have been trying to kind of instill into the guys would be absolutely, he's trying to instill, you know, his philosophy. He's got Tommy Griffin there, who was a very good full-back, who read the game for a centre-back midfielder, was always a great team guy. So I'm sure he would be strongly emphasising team defence, watch the ball, helping other guys. And, you know, you could see that the weekend. They were very solid. They never really looked under pressure. Tyrone never really got through on a goal chance. And if you compare that to the first league game last year, I was at it up in the crowd watching, and Donegal got 3 goals and could have had 4 or 5. So I'd say Peter would have been, you know, maybe his first prerogative would be just to make Kerry solid. And he knows he's got the David Cliffords and the O'Donohues and the Gainies that once you get them solid and get the ball up there, you're going to be a match for anybody. So, you know, Kerry haven't put 2 wins back-to-back in the first 2 games of the league in a long time, I would figure. So I would say that would be a huge emphasis for them on Sunday to get the win up here and to be sitting top of the table after 2 games. And that'd be a pretty good place for Kerry to be.
I mean, just speaking about, let's say, Kerry's defence, I mean, 2 points is what they kept Tyrone from play. Like, Donny Buckley is clearly doing a lot of defensive work and effective defensive work with Kerry.
Yeah. Well, when Donny Buckley came into Mayo, you know, the Mayo players and everyone talking in Mayo have been raving about him. Any club team, underage team that he's ever come into, he instills a massive, you know, a lot of intensity in the tackling, and the last day, Tyrone scored 2 points from play, and you know, from people who were at the game, I wasn't at the game myself, but people who were at the game were saying that Kerry had a blanket, which is pretty much unheard of for Kerry. So, you know, are Kerry fans going to accept that, first of all? But second of all, you were involved with Donny Buckley in 2011. What is the kind of emphasis you've seen, and are you seeing kind of a bit of that already?
Well, to be honest, Donny, you know, we had him in 2011 excellent in the tackle, you know, would have done a lot of work in the tackle. So I presume between himself, Peter and Tommy Griffin, that has been an area. And it's not so much, I don't know how much emphasis Donny's had on him yet. You know, he was away, he's back a few weeks. I would say their shape was important to them the last day, and just to be solid. You know, they were down a few bodies, and I think it was very much a case of, let's get a win here and let's get our reign. You know, Peter Keane's first game in charge would have been about winning, you know, and I think Kerry know the footballers we have. We're never going to be a so-called all-out defensive team, but, you know, at certain stages of certain games, you know, we won the All-Ireland in 2014 by, you know, people perceived us to be playing very defensive. All we did was tell our 2 half-backs not to go forward, you know, not to follow our men's down and fall into the trap of getting caught up there, turned over, and in loads of space. So I would say he would have been keeping it very solid the last day, and it bodes well for the future.
People are going to be looking out for that now to see that. So moving on, I suppose, as well now to Tyrone Mayo. Like, it's Mayo's 21st consecutive year in Division 1 football. I mean, that's extraordinary. And obviously now with James back, you know, he's looking to, you know, to lay his marker down. I mean, how do you see that game going?
The game of the weekend for me. Tyrone will be hurting after their performance, you know, because no matter what Kerry did, and Kerry made it tough, and maybe they weren't ready for that, but, you know, Tyrone will be still saying, hold on a minute, we were in an All-Ireland final last year, what was that about? 7 points, 2 points in play. There'll be serious questions asked in that camp, and knowing Mickey has always been a great man to get an answer out of his team. Absolutely. Mayo will be after winning a great battle, you know, James will be delighted with that, you know. You're down there, you're playing in reckless conditions. It's all, like, that game was all about the win, and I think for Mayo to get it in such a close margin, and James to be back in the hot seat, it just bodes well for them going into this game. So I think this will be a very interesting one the weekend, and one I'm looking forward to watching.
And you're not the only one looking forward to it. And finally then, we're going to have Roscommon now and Tyrone. How do you think that's going to go?
Yeah, for me, home advantage.
Roscommon Monaghan even, geez.
Home advantage is huge in this. Last week in Division 1, all the teams who were at home won their games. Roscommon this year have 4 of their 7 games at home.
Okay.
So this game for me is must win for Roscommon. The other 3 teams to play at home is Dublin, Kerry, and last year's finalist Tyrone. So they'll be really targeted on this one. Like even 2 years ago when Roscommon had a really dismal Division 1 campaign, they had 3 home games. They bet Cavan and they lost by a point to Donegal in the earlier rounds, and that was kind of a massive swinger. If they'd won that game, and it could have went either way. The momentum is a massive thing when you're in a survival battle, and that's what they are. So for me, Monaghan will be trying to build the momentum in one way, and Roscommon
and take the game to Roscommon like they did.
Where Roscommon, you can expect to have massive numbers back again, and they're just kind of obviously trying to halt a losing momentum, and you know they'd take massive confidence from a win, and who knows then.
Well, I can't wait to be back here this time next week and we'll be chatting about all that action. Time for another break now. Don't forget, we're on all the usual platforms at Air Sport, and we'll get your questions later on the show. And also, we're going to preview the second round of the Alliance Hurling Leagues. We'll be back in a few. Now, let's recap on the results in Division 1A and B of the league. Liam Sheedy's Tipperary impressed in front of a home crowd with a convincing win over Clare. Kilkenny ran out 7-point winners over Cork, and Limerick edged out Wexford on Sunday. In 1B,
Dublin, Galway and Waterford all recorded comfortable wins at home, Offaly on the receiving end of a 27-point defeat. So we have a full roundup of fixtures coming up this weekend. Limerick go head-to-head with Tipperary on Saturday. Clare face Kilkenny on Sunday. And Cork and Wexford both look for their first win also on Sunday. And in 1B, Carlow face Galway, Laois host Waterford, and Dublin are in Tullamore to take on Offaly. All those games throw in on Sunday. And don't forget, you can watch the All-Ireland winners Limerick in their first home game of the campaign against Tipperary in the Gaelic Grounds live on Air Sport 2 from 6:30 on Saturday. So now, welcoming back to studio, we have Seamus. You had a cup of coffee, you're okay?
I was listening attentively to Kieran.
I do believe Kieran's gone off because he wasn't happy with how his hair was. So he's gonna come back later on the show. So let's get straight into it because there is mouth-watering clashes coming up. I mean, we have to go first, of course. I mean, let's talk briefly. I mean, Liam Sheedy now, for example, first great win with Tipperary, setting them up nicely. But, I mean, this is the clash that everyone's talking about. It's a mouth-watering clash against All-Ireland champions Limerick.
Yeah, Liam Sheedy wasn't shy about it at the start of the year. When he came in, he was like, listen, we're going to get momentum, we're going to get the Tipperary public behind us, and we're going to drive on. So, Munster League, they actually took him far more serious than they've ever taken it. Got to a final. And it was interesting to hear Paddy Maher talk about it after the game, that they were a bit sour after their performance against Clare in that Munster League final in Limerick. And they came out with a bit more aggression.
Absolutely.
Saw it in the first half. And, you know, I see them going into the Limerick game now trying to carry that momentum on. But I can imagine Limerick are trying to make the Gaelic Grounds a fortress. Especially when you're talking about leading into the championship, home games are paramount.
Yeah.
Limerick were the only team to win away from home in the first round of the league in Division 1A and 1B. So it tells you how hard it is to actually win away. And Wexford Park is horrendously difficult. It feels like there's a gale blowing every day. It's like Salt Hill in Galway. There's always a breeze blowing in Wexford. So it was a very impressive win for Limerick because, you know, the Munster League blooded an awful lot of players, kind of getting into training, serious training really only at the beginning of January. So, you know, good result under their belt, and this game is going to be fairly interesting.
And I suppose there was a lot of questions asked of Tipperary's full backline, but I mean, did you think that they answered those questions against Clare?
Yeah, well, I think it's fair to ask the questions. I suppose from last year's league final to 4 championship games last year, the full backline conceded 330 from play. 65% of the ball that came in on top of them they lost. But yeah, I think it's very harsh to kind of be looking at this as a full back problem solely. If you look back when they played Limerick last year, it was actually the corner forwards who did most of the damage. So, but yeah, the full back line have been struggling, and then Pádraig Maher went back and he was man of the match.
Well, he was wearing number 3 in his back. That's about as far as they went.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
They
conceded 111, but then we have to ask: is that solution solved, or is this just, you know, Clare completely played into their hands by playing a sweeper, which allowed Pádraig Maher to play as a sweeper? So is that again, is that problem solved, or?
Listen, I think it's fairly frustrating when people start focusing on the full back line for hemorrhaging scores when, you know, the support and structure around it has to be looked at. So what we saw actually on Saturday night was Ronan Maher playing centre back, playing very, very well. Got on a nice few balls, didn't light it up, but he was very in the right place at the right time. Sat back in the 45 and protected the full back line by and large. Now Paddy was left free. Clare decided to pull a man out and leave Paddy free. I don't know why.
What was your thoughts on that? Because it happened the whole way through.
My thought straight away was like, so Clare are going to do that. Clare are going to pull out a man around the middle of the field. You know, but if you're going to do that, you choose who you leave free at the back.
Exactly.
You don't leave Paddy Maher free in the full back line. You choose you pick your poison. You take Donagh Maher, you take Barrett. But you don't leave Paddy Maher free.
Will Limerick do the same?
Well, Limerick won't pull out a man. Limerick rely on movement in the forwards. You know, you'll play full back against Seamus Flanagan. Well, no, you mightn't play full back against Seamus Flanagan this weekend because of the red card. But whoever's in that full forward position for Limerick is going to be relying heavily on movement and space created by the half forwards outside him. So it'll be a completely different test if Paddy's there at the weekend, which I presume Liam considers him his solution for number 3. You're going to have a very different challenge against Limerick.
Yeah. Well, I think you're both comfortable enough now in your seats for me to ask you, who do you think is going to win this game? Because everybody's talking about them. Both teams have merit and they're good enough to win it. But predict it. Who do you think is going to come out with the victory?
Yeah,
I'm looking at you first.
We know what your answer's going to be. I think Tipperary off of the momentum. The big thing, like momentum went completely against Tipperary last year. They couldn't get anything going for them, especially in the Munster Championship. And when you can't buy a win, it just becomes very difficult. Yeah. And they'll have taken an awful lot from last week, and they're starting to find a bit of continuity. Like up top, Jake Morris and Callanan seem to work well together. Their full back line, whether we know whether this is going to be the solution or not, or if not, they're definitely going to take confidence from a game where they're not completely leaking scores for fun. So for me, I think Tipperary are going to come in with more hunger as well. I am very close, of course, and Limerick can be massively physical, and they're going to win a lot of the exchanges. But I think Tipperary are going to.
I don't know. It'd be interesting because I think Limerick could be the type of team that they want to prove that last year wasn't a flash in the pan either. But
I think
this
is going to be one of the games that we're going to actually see a lot this year, right? We've got two teams who are actually very good, and there might actually just be a call or a ball hitting the post.
Hopefully not a card.
Like Clare against Galway last year, ball hitting the post, and that decided a game. Do you know what I mean? So we're looking at the same, I think, again for Saturday. Tipperary are gung-ho. They've got great momentum behind them. Fine, fantastic. But I'm convinced that Liam Sheedy has a bigger picture in mind here. They've gotten to the league final twice.
Yeah.
And had their season completely fall to pieces after losing the league final.
True.
So I think there's a bigger picture at play here. Yes, they're going to come to Limerick motivated, they're going to want to win a game, but I don't see this being the be-all and end-all for them. I think Thurles was a bigger deal for them because it was home territory. I don't see Limerick being shifted at home this early in the league.
Well, time will tell. Let's move on now to Clare Kilkenny. I mean, when Kilkenny played Cork, even though Cork, it was said that we're off the pace, it still took Kilkenny quite like an amount of time to get ahead. Like, I mean, it was 21 minutes, I think, until they actually went ahead. So do you think that they're going to have to start faster and better now against Clare?
Yeah, they're going to have to start stronger. I think that Kilkenny in that game, they showed a lot of their old attributes in terms of anything they hit the ground they were on top of. They were winning all of the 50-50 battles, the dogged ball. But they did it differently. They brought Jerry Elwood back, and for me that was just very interesting. He hasn't really kicked on since All-Star, but I just thought that he's got massive fitness levels, and he's a very clever player on the ball, and he just looked perfect in that role. So for me, just to see how that's going to develop over the next few rounds, and especially this weekend, it's going to be very interesting. I
was actually surprised. So if you look at the Kilkenny team, they're playing obviously without Ballyhale, the contingent. Richie Hogan wasn't in the panel.
A lot of big names missing.
So I was actually surprised with the team that they put out that Cork didn't actually put more pressure on them. I know it was in Nolan Park, but I was actually still quite surprised looking through the Cork team. Between the two 45s, half back line, midfield, and half forward line, it was actually a good number of changes.
And Clare would probably be again. They'll be wanting to bounce back from that loss.
So Kilkenny have a different prospect. I think that Cork team that they faced was there was too many changes around the middle of the field and not enough experience for me around there. Clare will build on, because they've had a nice Munster League. Ennis is a particularly difficult place to go, and Kilkenny know that from previous leagues. So I expect Clare to, like Guilfoyle, I thought was excellent the last day.
Very, very
he gave Barrett an awful lot of trouble.
6'6",
and you're looking at
is what he is.
And you're looking, and even he won the penalty off him. He got a point from play, and I know Paddy Maher had a great game, but Guilfoyle actually gave an awful lot of trouble in there. And in the second half, when I thought there was going to be a lot of hay made off of direct ball with the wind into Conlon and to Guilfoyle, the wind was completely taken out of the sails. They were down to 14 men, and they were actually ended up on the back foot very quickly. Against Kilkenny are actually going to have to defend against Guilfoyle and the Conlon threat fairly vigilantly. Clare won't have, well, they might have. Tony Kelly, his appeal is tomorrow night. The middle of the field will be interesting to see because Kilkenny dominated that the last day. I'm delighted to see Gerard Elwood back playing well. That cruciate injury kind of knocked him back when he was actually on a real upward trajectory. So his performance last day will be really encouraging to Kilkenny with the absence of Richie in those. So Cusack Park's going to be a fairly loud place again, and I'd say Clare are going to be difficult to beat.
And just moving on to the last fixture, Cork Wexford, both of them itching to get the points on the board now, having incurred a loss each. How do you think that's going to go?
Yeah, well, I think Wexford was a lot more promising. Wexford were doing very well up until the sending off. I think it really didn't suit them. They were putting up physically to Limerick, And then when the 2 extra bodies gone off, it really didn't suit them. Liam Ryan is obviously a very strong player for them as well. One of the things I'd be very interested with Cork is the experiment with Aidan Walsh at full forward. I thought it was, obviously he's played a lot of his hurling in midfield and wing back. It's almost looking for maybe a kind of a Shamie Flanagan type of full forward. But for me, he doesn't really fit that. He's a lot more relaxed type of player. Even, he's physical from his football and whatnot. But I don't know what you think of him playing there.
Listen, I don't think Aidan is a full forward, but especially when you've got an athletic guy whose hurling isn't as crisp as a Patrick Horgan or whatever, I find that putting him in full forward, I think the same about Liam Rush, to be honest. I think Liam Rush is actually far more influential for Dublin like that further back the field. With an Aidan Walsh, I actually think he could affect the game with more space out the field when your first touch is less critical, close to goal, catch and turn. But at games like he scored the first point of the game, Aidan got him off a good start. But the league, I suppose, is the place to try that for Cork. But this game coming up is last year. This would actually have a very different complexion. 2 teams that had lost the first round under a lot of pressure.
But now we see that there's no relegation.
Exactly,
there is no pressure.
So Wexford lost their first game at home. This time last year, you're looking at a lot of pressure here because there's going to be a scrap right to the end for promotion relegation. No promotion relegation. Limerick spent 8 years trying to get out of Division 1B and they changed it. But
bitter?
No bitterness. I don't know where that came from. But on a serious note, like this game for Wexford now is actually a chance to, like you said, they were actually playing quite well in the early stages of the game. Against the breeze, we're putting Limerick under all sorts of pressure. Carl Dunbar got the first goal, put a lot of pressure on. Conor McDonald's top class. I think this is an actual perfect game for them to actually get back up and running without as much pressure on them.
Well, we could talk about that all night. Thanks, lads. Another massive weekend in store for us. Now, one man who's going to be hoping that Kilkenny are going to retain their league title is Tommy Walsh. We caught up with the 9-time All-Ireland winner to ask him about his teammates down through the years.
The best singer would probably be John Tennyson. He used to sing The Gambler. Best trainer on the squad, I'd say, is Jackie Turrell. Really into his fitness and probably lived in the gym when we were hurling. Henry, I think he's just a great way with people and he's a proven winner, both club and county. And he's already in his first year after winning the Leinster Club and the Kilkenny Club, so Henry Shefflin. The biggest moaner. I'd say it probably Richie Power. And probably get a text off him as soon as this goes out now, but Richie is easiest to wind up. Brian Hogan, very easy to wind up and it's very enjoyable when you do it. The player's player will probably be Taggy. I'll have to pass on that, I'm afraid, sorry. Say Henry again. He's, and I'd say TJ on the hurling field was a genius. Can see things that other lads can't. David Herity. We don't get any of his jokes. Dressing room DJ, Cha Fitzpatrick was brilliant. And I think he is a DJ now, I think, as well, so. Colin Fennelly or Eddie Brennan. Same myself.
You just wonder if the camera wasn't on, would some of those answers be different? But anyway, we'll say nothing. So now I'm going to ask both of you the question. I suppose, well, now that you're back, I suppose, it's only fair. How's the hair? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's fine, you seem to be happy enough with it. Yeah, we'll roll with that. I'm going to ask you a question about your teammates. So, who would have been the worst to train?
Yeah, so the answer comes straight to my head, which is a bad thing.
All right.
So it was one of my favourite teammates.
Right.
So Donny Ryan. You just didn't want to be in a drill with Donny. You didn't.
Why?
Because it was going at half pace all the time half pace. And he had this habit of, if you had a one-on-one or kind of a line of a drill where a ball was struck, he didn't strike it anything less than 100 miles an hour. There was no warm-up touch or anything like that. It was, you're getting it in the face, straight at you.
Lovely.
And so when Donny rocked in, and I used to mark him in training a lot, corner back, corner forward, he used to basically overtly say we'll swap balls here. Let's not go too hard.
Okay, yeah. Every second ball kind of thing.
Yeah. Let's not go too crazy here.
And what about you, Kieran? Who's the worst trainer?
Worst trainer? I'd say probably would have been definitely me in the gym, and I wouldn't have been much in the gym. On the pitch, there was a few of them. Brian Sheehan and Darren O'Sulliven would often be fun giving
name
out,
and shame here tonight.
Giving out if there was a bit too much going on in the drill, but. In fairness, we were lucky enough. We were always good enough to train, and just once the banter was kept going was the main thing.
I really wish I'd asked you that question earlier on, because I think we could have even gone more in depth into that. But unfortunately, that is all we have time for. Just a chance to remind you that we have plenty of live action this weekend. We start at 4:30 on Air Sport 1 as Dublin hosts Donegal in the Ladies Football National League in Croke Park. Following that, it's the turn of the men as Dublin and Galway do battle in a repeat of last year's league final. Over on Air Sport 2, you can catch Limerick against Tipperary. Build up to that one starts at 6:30. And of course, we'll be back next Wednesday at 7 to look back at all of the action. Now, there's time enough for me to say thanks to Kieran Donaghy, Seamus Hickey and Eamon Donoghue for all your great insights. And thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Supporting all 32 counties, Allianz.